There's a lot that's consistently comforting about Octopath Traveler. If you grew up on 16-bit RPGs where a colorful cast of characters saves the world from larger-than-life villains, you'll feel immediately at home amongst Octopath's motley band of heroes and sinister scoundrels. Yet even if you didn't cut your teeth on the classics, there's plenty to love in a game that's more than a mere throwback. The battle system, in particular, offers a tremendous amount of flexibility, and it's satisfying to see your own well-honed strategies manifest in ludicrous amounts of damage. The style of Octopath is instantly striking. It uses a 16-bit aesthetic, but instead of everything being flat, the game places elements in simple 3D spaces to stand out like a diorama. Little touches like sparkling sand or realistic water blend well with the pixelated characters and buildings, creating an appealing fusion. It's a sort of old meets new look that lends itself well to the storybook vibe, almost as if you've been inserted into a classic fable. The music also heavily contributes, with whimsical tunes seemingly built to prime you for adventure and grandiose battle themes meant to enhance the drama of fights. The depth of field can be a little strange at times, with segments of the world needlessly and distractingly out of focus. Octopath's structure is intentionally fragmented. After choosing one of 8 available characters, you can travel the world collecting the 7 remaining ones. Although you're stuck with the starting character until finishing their story, you can swap the rest around freely, building whatever party of 4 you'd like. Each character has their own largely isolated tale that spans across 4 chapters. It's worth noting that a challenging gauntlet of fights awaits after finishing the character stories, and this segment does link the narrative together in certain ways. Although it may initially sound disappointing that the stories don't often intertwine, there are benefits to the approach. The tone between the 8 stories can vary wildly. The dream-chasing Tressa is a far cry from the embittered Primrose, who's hungry for revenge. The player has basically complete control over what they experience and when. It can be refreshing to bounce from one narrative to another, never getting bogged down with any specific thread for too long. You'll need to be mindful of the recommended levels for each individual chapter, which may annoy those especially intent on plowing ahead. Since each chapter can be completed in under an hour, the game's format is a natural fit for the Switch. Playing through a chapter during a lengthy commute, or from the comfort of your own bed, provides a short burst of satisfaction. The problem is that none of the stories are especially remarkable. Things like Cyrus the Scholar's occasionally oblivious nature and Ulbrich the Warrior's unerring commitment to honor are charming enough in their own right, but Octopath feels like it's hitting things far too square on the nose. The primary lessons learned and defining traits of the characters are so broad and obvious that there isn't a ton of surprise or excitement in seeing them through. Ophelia, a cleric, is so devout and good-natured that it becomes easy to predict how she'll act during a given situation. Sometimes it feels like you're just waiting for the inevitable. Perhaps the straightforward storytelling would be less noticeable if the layout of the chapters wasn't so formulaic. Almost every chapter has a bit of story, a short and indistinct dungeon, a boss fight, and then a bit more story. It's not even that the structure is bad, but after seeing it so many times, it all starts to bleed together. There's a danger in resorting to gimmicks just for the sake of variety, but even a little more deviation from the norm would be appreciated. What heavily compensates for the shortcomings in structure and storytelling is the thoroughly excellent combat. It all revolves around BP and breaking enemies. Every turn during a fight, each of your characters earns 1 BP, which can be expended to hit with weapons multiple times or to power up skills and spells. Enemies have a small shield with a number in the center, and this number is whittled down by attacking with things they're weak against. Get it to 0, and the enemy is robbed of upcoming actions and takes significantly more damage. BP is such a crucial resource because of how flexible it is. Do you use it to quickly break an enemy, or wait until they're already broken and then throw everything at them? Is it better to cash in for boosted healing, or use that same BP to dish out extra pain? It's a very clever layer on top of standard RPG mechanics like dealing with status ailments or summoned enemies. Octopath isn't afraid of giving bosses a lot of health, which demands the player to actually make smart use of the tools available in order to overcome them. The game also never adds complexity for complexity's sake. In the beginning, it shows you the rules of combat and doesn't really deviate from those rules by constantly bolting on new things. Instead, it tests what you already know in different ways, allowing a deeper appreciation for something that's easy to grasp but provides for a welcome amount of depth. Combat wouldn't be nearly as enjoyable to engage with if Octopath weren't so generous with its job system. Acquiring secondary jobs for characters is pretty simple, and once you have those secondary jobs, you can easily assign them to characters, changing things up whenever you please. It means your warrior can also be a cleric, a merchant can also be a hunter, and so on. Better still is the extremely low barrier for learning new secondary job skills. In order to acquire skills for a job, you spend job points, but the price for new skills is cheap, especially at first, and you can almost always get a good handful of skills immediately. Because it's easy to get value out of a secondary job, there's ample reason to experiment and dig deeply into all of the possible job combinations. And thankfully, so many combinations are worthwhile, especially during certain circumstances. Although you may use some jobs more than others, every job has a strong purpose and feels valuable. Characters have what are known as path actions that make them useful even outside of combat. Therion can steal items from townsfolk, and Primrose can seduce NPCs into joining the party, providing a little bit of extra strength. Sometimes the most enjoyable use of these path actions is during side quests, where you'll have to creatively apply them in order to complete the quest, feeling like a puzzle. Sadly, there are instances where side quests are so vague that it's tough knowing where to even begin. Individual character talents also persist regardless of the jobs characters have. Only Therion can open purple chests, which quite often contain some of the most valuable loot. Whoever you have in your party, you'll likely wish you had someone else, which is a great problem to have, and fights against complacency. With a less tiresome structure and more interesting narratives, Octopath Traveler could have been an outstanding RPG, but even as is, it's a very good one. It's exceedingly rare that any combat system can remain interesting throughout the sometimes gargantuan lengths of these games, but the system here has done just that. Thanks to the abundance of freedom provided to the player and the design of the fights themselves, it's a joy to fiddle with everything the game has to offer, particularly if you're already wired to obsess over that sort of thing. Octopath Traveler does not excel in every area it pursues, but the ones in which it does shine brightly. Easy Allies reviews are made possible by generous viewers just like you. If you like what you see, check out patreon.com/easyallies to help us make more. For just $1 a month, you can gain access to exclusive shows, including our full spoiler mode discussion of Octopath Traveler.